Most prediction market products are great for experienced traders and sophisticated financial users. However, they're pretty much awful for everyone else. New users get rinsed, churn is high, and the category still hasn't evolved for fun. But Upshot is trying to change that. I'm Robbie, and I built crypto projects from $0 to $100 million. I've advised dozens more, and I've had companies fail. So I look at other projects a little bit differently than most. In this series, I break down one project a week and give it a score out of 10 based on what I think is its real potential. Today, we're taking a look at another project on Base called Upshot. Not only did I speak to the founder, and he's clearly really sharp, but this project also won Base Batch's 002, which is Coinbase's global hackathon program. On the surface, this looks really just like a trading card game, but actually, when you look closer, it's nothing like that. It's actually closer to Pokemon meets Polymarket, or card collecting meets prediction markets. And that's a really interesting combination because prediction markets have a massive problem with adoption. And actually, Upshot is trying to solve it in a really novel and interesting way. So let's frame this properly and set one thing straight from the off. Prediction markets have blown up. They're massive, they are powerful, but they have a huge flaw that not many people are talking about or paying attention to. They're absolutely brutal for new users. Most people come in and they get completely wrecked by people who understand how these markets move, by people that actually have larger volumes of capital to deploy. And as a result of this, users churn. They disappear. And that's the brutal reality. And what Upshot is doing is they're essentially turning prediction markets into a game. They are gamifying it. You open packs and you get cards tied to real world outcomes. Then you build up a lineup of predictions to compete up against other players. So instead of just betting, you're playing, and that changes everything. And this is the real unique selling point of Upshot. They're not just building a game, and they're not just building a prediction market, but they're building a layer in between that makes prediction markets accessible and usable. Because instead of punishing new users, they're engaging them and they're trying to actively keep them into the system longer. They are aligning incentives through gamification, which is something that prediction markets has been missing. Right now, the prediction market space has been optimized for efficiency, whereas Upshot leans the other way. It's designed for participation, retention, and enjoyment. If they get that right, they don't just improve the user experience, they actually increase the audience exponentially because the total addressable market for gamers is absolutely huge. So let's take a look at the Upshot site and product. This is the site. I've actually already signed up. The onboarding is really smooth. You can sign up through socials. I did check that through my Twitter account. Works super well. But for the purpose of this, I wanted to actually connect a MetaMask account and deposit some funds so that I could actually show the card or packs opening in real time. That's really important to the retention of it. The game loop is pretty straightforward. You open packs, you receive a mix of cards, some with immediate value and others tied to future outcomes, i.e. prediction markets. So let's see if we can open up a pack here. These are brand new and fresh out today. You can see that many others have recently sold out. So really simply, once you're signed in, we'll click buy pack. We'll buy one now and voila, simple as that. Let's open the pack, see if we get anything good. Click to open. Really nice little animation here, really quite engaging. See if we got anything good. Reveal the cards. So if you look at this specifically, I can view the card here, and this is suggesting that if Cole Palmer wins the player of the match in the FA Cup quarter-final, then I will receive $16.58, which will be automatically settled into my user account. Coming back to my dashboard, I can see my collection here, and all of the cards have gone into here. Now if I scroll to the top, I can click contests, and I can join and compete in any of these contests. And this is where Upshot clicks. It introduces competition through gamification, identity, replayability, and that all-important community element. We can actually see through their Twitter that there is already good traction occurring amongst the community. Lots of interest, lots of sharing, users sharing their packs, sharing their results, sharing their wins, and that is only going to compound with competition and when that occurs. And it's this sense of community that Upshot are really working hard to compound and use as a vehicle to propel adoption. We can also see that they have a decent number of followers, 13.3k, for a company just starting out in Web3, and I've also confirmed that they actually have a Discord community of just under 10,000 users, which again, to say that they have only just launched the platform is a really respectable number. I also feel that they have a Telegram, though I'm not 100% sure, that I think hovers around the 2,000 user mark. They're actually starting to build a solid social footprint, but it's not only the community and the product which stood out to me. One of the big things which stood out to me here was the founder. The founder's name is Wayne, and what really stood out to me about Wayne is that he clearly understands both sides of his business, not just the gaming mechanics and the importance of how community will propel distribution and adoption, but the market structure underneath. They've actually also got very strong early validation, especially winning base batches 002. They've also already raised a considerable sum of money for their pre-seed round. Wayne confided to me that one of those investors was very notable, especially with respect to supporting their distribution. Whilst he did confirm who they are to me, I don't want to be the one that says so, as I'm not sure this has been shared publicly yet. But what I can tell you is through my own validation is that this offers serious opportunity on the distribution layer for Upshot and Wayne. This could be what is known as a serious unfair advantage for Wayne and Upshot, which just further compounds why Upshot is really shaping into being a really promising project. That said, there are risks, many of which Wayne, the founder, is aware of himself. He spoke openly about what he sees as some of the challenges that he needs to overcome. One that I would also agree with him on is the fact that these cards are essentially delayed rewards, meaning that when you open the packs, not every card pays off instantly. It's a prediction for a future event. And that creates a slower feedback loop. Inside traditional gambling markets, instant gratification is a must. Why? Because that is where users get their dopamine hit. This is why they are so addictive. This is why they can also be quite dangerous. With what Wayne is doing here, or with what Upshot is doing here, that gratification is delayed because they may not know the results of the predictions for some time later. They've introduced instant value cards as a way to offset that. In other words, one of the cards will always have an instant value attributed to it, so that a user is not feeling as though they are constantly having to delay their gratification of opening the packs. 2. Finding the right balance between fun and finance. Much like many other blockchain games and GameFi projects, this balance has been really hard to find. Although Upshot is technically not within the realm of GameFi, it is still straddling that line of mixing those two fields. Too much game and the platform will lose credibility. Too much financial weight and it becomes intimidating again, just like the prediction markets. That middle ground is going to be hard to sustain. But what I will say from speaking from Wayne is that he has some really good ideas about how to address that challenge. 3. That fun topic again, regulation. The positioning themselves, or positioning Upshot I should say, as a sweepstakes and skill-based system. For those that are not privy to the gambling world, they are types of platforms that have a regulatory classification. How they're classifying will help them. But as with anything where you're tethering value to real world outcomes, it can always attract attention. 4. The underlying market integrity. Meaning, even though complexity has been removed from the system, it still depends on accurate pricing and fair outcomes. If that layer breaks, the user trust will also break with it. In other words, there is still a real prediction system running underneath the hood. Odds are being set, value is being assigned, and rewards are being calculated. This relies on fair resolutions and outcomes. If outcomes are unclear or decisions feel subjective, the system will feel rigged, user trust will erode, and they will disappear. So for Upshot, even though removing complexity is great for onboarding, unlike polymarket or prediction markets typically, where you can see the odds, you can see prices, and you understand the trade, you can verify the fairness. Whereas in Upshot, you open packs, you get cards, you play, but you don't see the mechanics underneath. So trust is integral to this system. So let's begin to score Upshot. For the category of product, I'd give this a solid 9 out of 10. They have clear differentiation and it is already generating revenue. It's also what I would classify as a Web 2.5 play. And for those that don't know what that means, it generally means that they're taking advantage of Web 3 or blockchain's core infrastructure while still benefiting through a familiar Web 2 based monetization or business model. Narrative, I would also suggest, is a solid 9 out of 10. Upshot sits at the intersection of gaming and gamify, which is becoming increasingly more popular within Web3, and prediction markets, which is also super hot. There's probably only AI, which comes in as a 10 out of 10 right now, as the hottest topic across the whole of Web3. But gaming and prediction markets is a really strong combination. Team. I think Wayne is an absolute superstar, and if the rest of the team are anywhere near Wayne in terms of his growth mindset, I have every faith that they're going to do brilliantly. But I didn't feel like I could put it at a 9 or a 10 purely because they don't have, let's say, decades worth of experience within this industry. That said, they have won base batches too. They've already shown early monetization with strong revenue just a few weeks after launch. They've managed to attract one of the best strategic investors I can think for them to also help them gain access to a Web 2 market that is potentially massive. And they also have huge experience in the field in which they're playing. Wayne and the team's edge is not, I've spent 20 years of my life building in this space. More so, they have identified a structural weakness in prediction markets and are executing an exciting solution pretty well so far. For those reasons, I'm giving a solid 7 out of 10. Social and distribution. I'm going to place this at an 8 out of 10. Coming from the angle that this is still a very early startup. They've got around 13k Twitter followers and around 10k on Discord. But it's not really the numbers that are that impressive to me. It's the level of early engagement coming from the community members across these platforms. They appear to have established a really early core user base amongst the base community, and that's pretty impressive. Overall, I'm going to give Upshot a 9 out of 10 as a really promising startup. It is one of the most exciting and compelling consumer-facing ideas that I have seen recently, especially in a market that is currently dominated by talk of agents, RWAs, and institutional capital. It's really refreshing to see an NFT card-based platform not only winning base batches, but getting some really strong early traction. Here's my founder take. If I were building Upshot, I'd focus on these 3 things. Making pack opening feel consistently rewarding and continuing to iterate and improve the experience. 2, I'd lean into the gamification and competitive elements of the Upshot platform. Leaderboards, matchups, and social dynamics. This is all happening, I can see it. But once again, consistent user feedback and improvement of these core gameplay mechanics will be where retention comes from. 3, and this is the big one, push beyond crypto native audiences. This concept translates exceptionally well into Web 2. Trading cards have a massive consumer market, and that's where the real scale is. If they execute that well, this could move beyond the niche of a cool NFT type prediction market play into something much bigger. A lot of people will look at Upshot and just see a game, but the mechanics underneath are what really matter. And if those are right, this is the kind of product which can scale very quickly. I'll be continuing to break down some more projects like Upshot, so if you want founder level insights, make sure you like and subscribe.